welcome to the room of requirement. Today I'm going to be talking about embodiment versus practice, the moment your spiritual work becomes who you are. And this is part 3 in a series that I'm doing. So part 1 was about the 7 layers of the energetic body. And part 2 was how the nervous system is the gatekeeper to magic and manifestation. So this is the third part of the series, like I said, and let's just go ahead and dive right in. When practice ends and embodiment begins. Everything I'm about to share with you in this video is part of a larger sequence we've been moving through together, one that begins in understanding and ends in embodiment. In the first part, we laid the foundation for exploring the 7 layers of the energetic body, where experience lives, how different layers hold memory and stress, and why some layers must stabilize before others can open. In the second part, we went deeper into the mechanics of regulation itself, why the nervous system is the true gatekeeper to magic and manifestation, and how the aura functions as a living electromagnetic field that reflects your internal coherence. And in this part, we bring it all into the body and into your daily life, where regulation stops being something that you practice in isolation and becomes something you live through your responses, your presence, and the way you move through the world. This is where the work becomes lived. When the real work begins. Up until now, we've talked about regulation as something that you practice, but the real work begins when regulation stops being something you do and becomes the way you move through life. Integration is not dramatic. It is not mystical. It is often quiet, subtle, and unnoticed. And that's why it's so powerful. In the mystery traditions, the stage was called incarnation, the moment the teaching enters the body and rearranges how you exist in the world. Coherence in ordinary moments, where the field is actually tested. Your field is not tested during meditation. It is tested in conversations, in waiting, in disappointment, in boredom, in moments where nothing seems to be happening. Integration means you no longer abandon your body during stress. You no longer override sensation to stay positive. You remain present without bracing. And the sign of real coherence is this. Your internal state changes slower than it used to. Not because you're suppressing reactions, but because the field is stable enough not to spike. And this is where magic begins to work quietly. And you will start to notice this in small moments where you have an interaction and you're like, oh, well, I didn't really react the way that I used to, right? So it's going to come really subtly, very quietly. It's not going to be some big dramatic thing. You'll notice it over time, and you'll also notice people will start saying that you're different. Something's different about you. They'll think it's something physical, but it's not. It's just your energy has shifted. Your frequency has shifted. Regulated action versus forced action. Why effort starts to feel different. So there is a profound shift that happens once the field stabilizes. Action stops being reactive. When the nervous system is regulated, you move when something is aligned, you pause when something is unclear, and you no longer push through internal resistance. This can feel disorienting at first. Many people mistake regulation for doing less, but in truth, it is doing only what the field can support. And this is why some opportunities fall away, some relationships dissolve, some timelines quietly close, and it's not loss, it is refinement. Field discernment in relationships, why people respond differently to you now. So as your field integrates, something subtle but undeniable happens. People react differently to you without you saying a word. Some feel calmer, some feel exposed, some feel uncomfortable, and some feel drawn. This is not personality, this is field interaction. A coherent field no longer mirrors dysregulation. It no longer absorbs emotional chaos. It no longer stabilizes others at its own expense. This can create distance, not because you are withdrawing, but because coherence cannot sustain entanglement. And this is one of the quiet griefs of integration. Living without constant correction. The end of hyper-monitoring. One of the clearest signs of integration is this. You stop constantly checking yourself. You're no longer asking, am I aligned? Did I do that right? Is this blocking my manifestation? The system knows how to self-correct now, and your body starts adjusting breath automatically. It releases tension without effort. It returns to neutrality on its own. And this is when magic stops being intentional and becomes environmental. Okay, so it's going to start manifesting in your outer world. Reality rearranges not because you focus on it, but because your presence is ordered. When life begins to move around you, the hidden outcome of integration. When the field is integrated, timing improves, conflicts resolve faster, resistance diminishes, complexity simplifies. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer fighting it. This is the stage where manifestation feels secondary, power feels quiet, desire softens, authority deepens, and you're no longer trying to control outcomes. You are inhabiting reality. The mark of true initiation. True initiation is not knowledge. It's not experiences, and it's not spiritual identity. It is stability in motion. When you can walk through uncertainty without fragmenting, when your presence regulates the room rather than reacts to it, when your field remains coherent without effort, when the work has entered the body, and from that place, magic is no longer something that you practice. It is something that happens because you are here. Coherence under pressure, where the field is truly revealed. One of the most important truths about integration is this. Your field is not revealed in calm moments. It is revealed under pressure. Pressure exposes where the nervous system still braces, where the aura contracts, where coherence collapses into old patterns. Integration does not mean pressure disappears. It means that pressure no longer hijacks your system. You begin to notice your breath shortens and then returns. Emotion rises and then it settles. Tension appears and then it releases. This self-correction is the sign of a regulated field. It's not perfection and it's not constant calm, but it is resilience without fragmentation. Time, urgency, and field distortion. Why rushing breaks coherence. Urgency is one of the most underestimated disruptors of your field. When the nervous system feels rushed, the field narrows, perception collapses, decision-making becomes reactive. A coherent field moves in time, not against it. And as integration deepens, you may notice you resist rushing, even subtly. You pause before responding. You stop forcing timing. And this can feel uncomfortable at first, even counterproductive. But this pause is not delay. It is field intelligence. And reality reorganizes more efficiently around the system that's not panicking. So this is like, people that are like speed cleaning. And they stop and they go, oh my gosh, like, why am I rushing through this? I'm guilty of this too. If I'm in a hurry, you start taking a shower in 10 minutes instead of 15 minutes, And it's like when you're rushing, everything gets distorted and it just seems like there's a looping of things getting worse and worse and worse. And it's because you're fragmenting. So when you start to notice that you're rushing through things, just make a practice of noticing and then stopping yourself and then kind of slowing down and getting mindful and being present in the moment. This is the way that you can practice this and it will really help. Meditation helps with this. I highly recommend meditation. If you guys have watched a lot of my videos, you know how I am about meditation. Meditation is one of the things that's going to help you do this. Okay, it's going to help you stop rushing around and stop reacting and help your nervous system calm down. Speech as a field act. Why words land differently now. As coherence integrates, your relationship to speech changes. You speak less. You explain less. You justify less. Not because you're withholding, but because your field is doing more of the work. Words become cleaner, slower, more deliberate. This is because speech emerges from the nervous system. When this system is regulated, you no longer speak to manage anxiety. You no longer feel silence, and you no longer defend presence. Silence itself becomes communicative. This is a sign of authority, not dominance, but groundedness. Decision-making from a coherent field. Why choice starts to feel simpler. One of the subtle gifts of integration is decision clarity. When the field is fragmented, decisions feel heavy. You second-guess yourself. You seek reassurance. You look for outside validation. So when the field is coherent, decisions feel quieter, less dramatic, less mentally exhausting. And this does not mean that every choice is easy. It means decisions are no longer charged with survival energy. So you're choosing from presence, not from fear or consequence. This is how sovereignty actually starts to form. The end of the internal negotiation, a major initiatory shift. There is a phase many people pass through without realizing what's happening. The inner negotiations stop. You no longer argue with yourself about whether you should rest, whether something feels wrong, whether you're allowed to say no. The body communicates and you listen. This is not impulsivity. This is integration of authority, and when the nervous system trusts itself, the field stabilizes naturally. Coherence in uncertainty, living without needing resolution. Perhaps the most advanced expression of integration is this. You can remain coherent without knowing what comes next. The need for certainty dissolves. The urge to control outcomes softens. The future no longer feels threatening. This does not mean that you stop planning. It means that your nervous system is no longer demanding resolution in order to feel safe. And this is where manifestation becomes non-effortorial. You don't have to try so hard. It just becomes second nature. It just happens as a side effect of your field being coherent. This is something that people really don't understand. They think they gotta just force things. And when you just get still and get quiet and you're coherent, you don't have to try to do anything to manifest. It just naturally happens because it's already in your field, because it's calm and it responds to your desires and it rejects what you fear. Okay? So this is where manifestation becomes a lot easier. You'll notice that things will just happen without you even trying. That's one of the ways that you know that you are regulated, centered, and grounded. And it's because you're no longer collapsing the field with anxiety about an outcome, and you're no longer attached to an outcome. The quiet signs of mastery, what integration actually looks like. True integration does not look flashy. It looks like fewer emotional spikes, shorter recovery times, less explanation, more presence. It looks like being unchanged by chaos, being unmoved by provocation, being responsive instead of reactive. And this is mastery without display, and it is very rare. The mark of true initiation. True initiation is not knowledge. It's not experiences. It's not spiritual identity. It's stability in motion. So when you can walk through uncertainty without fragmenting, when your presence regulates the room rather than reacts to it, when your field remains coherent without effort, then the work has entered the body. And from that place, magic is no longer something that you practice. It is something that happens because you are here. In closing, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this work, it is this. You don't need to become anything more than you already are. What changes everything is learning how to stay present inside yourself when life moves, when uncertainty appears, when pressure arises. Integration isn't about fixing your nervous system or perfecting your energy. It's about becoming someone your own body can trust. So when your system trusts you, your field stabilizes. And when your field stabilizes, life no longer needs to shout to get your attention. It just responds. In conclusion, there is a point on this path where coherence is no longer something that you cultivate. It becomes something that you carry. And when that happens, presence itself begins to affect others, their spaces and situations without effort. So in the next part, we'll move into what happens when a coherent field begins to hold real power, how authority forms without dominance, and how influence emerges without force, and why ethics become essential once your presence starts shaping reality. Because power without regulation fractures the field, but power held with coherence becomes responsibility. And that is where the next initiation begins. Okay, you guys, this is all I have for you today. We're going to talk about part 4 pretty soon. I'm going to have that out right after this one. And then I'm going to do a viewer request video. So I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of this. I hope this helps you understand what embodiment truly is. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for sticking around this long. Bye.